Good morning. The hour for convening having arrived. All members, please take your seats. Mr. Clerk, will you ring the bell? All members, please take your seats. It's a great Monday morning. We've sworn in a new member this morning, Representative Eric Bell. Good-looking young man. There he is right there. Representative Eric Bell, welcome to the House family. Representative Bell, we're proud of you and look forward to serving with you. All members, take your seats. I think it's time to get this show on the road. Members, please take your seats. Give me your attention. Before we, I'll give you just a minute, before we take the roll call vote this morning, I want to address an issue that has occurred in our state, and the pastor, Dr. Yarborough, is going to speak directly to it as well. But all of y'all are aware of this, but as we convene this morning, we know that several communities around our state were impacted by severe weather over the weekend. There's significant damage in Troup, Meriwether, and Baldwin counties. While there are reports of injuries in those counties, we don't yet have any report of fatalities reported, and we certainly all pray that remains the case. Now, we know our friends in the state of Mississippi were not so fortunate this weekend, and we pray for all of them as well. Devastating losses. Here at home, Governor Kemp has declared a state of emergency. All, and I mean all of our state's resources are being made available to help with this cleanup and take care of those impacted. May the good Lord bless those who were impacted with and those who are helping in the recovery effort this weekend and this week as time moves forward, and as we remember those in Mississippi that have suffered loss and are all about rebuilding their lives from this devastation. If you will, bow with me for a moment of silence. Amen. Thank you, members. We're going to have the morning roll call. All members present will vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machines. Doorkeepers, please close the doors and keep them closed. As is our custom, we will begin our day with scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Now, our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the gentleman from the 10th House District, Representative Victor Anderson. Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor this morning to represent my friend and to introduce my friend, Dr. John Yarborough, to this House. You know, how do you introduce a man who has so many accolades? It's impressive that he's a graduate of Truett McConnell University, Mercer University, the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, and holds a doctorate in divinity from Southern California Theological Seminary. It's important that he's pastored many churches. He's currently, he has served as the vice president of the North American Mission Board for the Southern Baptist Convention, and he's currently a director and adjunct professor for Truett McConnell University. It's impactful that he was one of 60 spiritual leaders invited by President George W. Bush following the 9/11 attack to discuss the spiritual impact of that terrorist attack on our nation. It's probably most impressive that he's been married to his beautiful wife, Diana, for 54 years. They have 2 children and 4 grandchildren. But none of those things are the most important thing that I can say about Dr. John Yarborough. The most important thing that I can say, and with this I'll introduce you to Dr. John Yarborough, is that he is a man after God's own heart. Dr. Yarborough.
Thank you, Representative Anderson, and thank you, Speaker. It is an honor to stand before this august body of who's. For each of you are a who's who in the district that has elected you to sit in the seat that you sit in and given you that responsibility. And I don't know about you, but every time I walk into this building, I'm so impressed as I walk through the gallery and I see the portraits of the who's that have affected our nation and our state. And then when we get to some of the more modern ones, the ones that I've had the privilege to know and be impacted by, I feel like I'm not a who's who, but I'm a who's he. I've been the bathroom break on major conferences all over the world. When you've got Charles Stanley and David Jeremiah and John Yarborough, when are you going to go to the bathroom? But you know what? As I look in the Bible, while I see the gallery of the who's who, the Moses, the Abrahams, the David, you remember David was a who's he till he faced Goliath and became a who's who. And then John and Peter and Paul, who, you remember, he was a who's who with the religious leaders in Israel until he had an encounter with Jesus on the way to Damascus. And he became a who's he to them, but a who's who to the early church, and ended up writing half of our New Testament. I want to take you just for a moment because I've become intrigued with, as a who's he, with the who's he's in the Bible. And I'm just going to lift up 2 very quickly this morning. One is in Judges chapter 3, verse 31. This is the only verse he has in the Bible, but by the way, he does have a verse in the Bible. And it says this, and after him came Shamgar, the son of Athan, who struck down 600 Philistines with an ox goad, and he saved Israel. Now, I would say probably over 2,500 years ago, he was a who's who. He was the 3rd judge ruling over the nation of Israel before they had a king. But he was willing to do what he could with what he had where he was while he was there. My prayer is that God would raise up among us a legion of Shamgars to do what we can with what we've got where we are while we're here. Because you see that ox goad, I'm not much of an agricultural expert, but I had to research a little bit. What was he holding? It wasn't an instrument of war. It was an instrument that you would use to prod the oxen with. And then on the other end, it had a flat place where you would scrape the mud off the plow. And yet, he took what he had and used it to do what he could, and he saved Israel in its time. But then the second guy, and this is the only other guy I'll cover with you today, is Shammah. And Shammah was one of David's 3 mighty men. And it says in 2 Samuel, the 3rd chapter, now after him was Shammah, the son of Agee the Harite. And the Philistines were gathered into a troop where there was a plot of ground full of lentils. Now, as a Georgia boy, he was standing in a pea patch. And the people fled from the Philistines. Everybody ran but Shammah. But he took his stand in the midst of the plot, defended it, and struck down the Philistines. And the Lord brought about a great victory. I want you to just real quickly, when he stood, where he stood, and why he stood. When he stood at the moment of crisis, when somebody needed to do something. Everybody else was running, but he stood. Where he stood? In the middle of the pea patch. In the midst, it says. Everybody could see him. You guys, there's some things worth standing for. Amen? And sometimes you have to stand alone. If nobody's willing to stand with you, you need to stand alone. But I want you to understand he wasn't alone. Because why he stood, it was God's pea patch. And it said, and the Lord gave the victory. Now, when you're standing, if you're standing with the Lord, you're never alone. And you make a majority when it's you and him. Let's pray together. Father God, I pray for these men and women and the awesome responsibilities you've given them. I know that this week they have long days in front of them and major decisions. I pray that you will grant them wisdom. I pray that you will grant them courage. I will pray that you grant them the ability to stand in the midst on issues we're standing for, to protect and defend this state. And Father, as we pray, as we've already mentioned, we pray for those who deal with disaster, for those families that are grieving the loss of loved ones, for those who are having to rebuild their lives, their homes, their businesses. We pray for first responders. We pray for civic and community leaders as they stand together to rebuild. Wherever the storms were, we know, Father, that you are there in the midst and will one day bring the victory. Forgive us, Father. Forgive us when we spend so much on so little. Help us to be what you want us to be and do what you desire us to do. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Pledge the flag with me, if you will, to our nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. Members, you may join Pastor Dr. Yarborough in the south anteroom for some photos. Dr. Yarborough, thank you for that message. We never know when the least of us make an impact. Thank you for being here. House will come to order. This House will come to order. Members, please take your seats. Cease conversation. Chairman Tarvin, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Information and Audits has read the journal from the previous legislative day and found it to be correct. And as we go into these last 2 days, courage does not always roar. Courage sometimes is that little voice at night that says, I'll try again tomorrow.
Yes. Good job.
Chairman Tarvin, over the interim, I'm going to miss your words of wisdom, so I hope you'll send me some of them as we go through the days before we come back here again. Chairman Tarvin, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to dispense with the reading of the journal? The chair hears none. The reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? Chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day?
Representative Administration of the 104th moves following be established as the order of business during the first part of the period. Unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions. Second reading of bills and resolutions. Reports of standing committees. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills and resolutions. Morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? Chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 813 by Representative Anderson of the 10th. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 31 and Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to incorporation of municipal corporations.
Governmental Affairs.
House Bill 814 by Representative Camp of the 135th and Williams of the 148th. Bill be titled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 7 and Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to imposition rate computation exemptions and credits relative to income taxes.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 815 by Representative Davis of the 87th, Scott of the 76th, Schofield of the 63rd. Bill be titled Act to amend Chapter 31 and Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to incorporation of municipal corporations.
Governmental Affairs.
House Bill 816 by Representative Davis of the 87th, Scott of the 76th, and Schofield of the 63rd. Bill be titled Act to amend Chapter 1 and Title 10 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to selling and other trade practices.
Agriculture and Consumer Affairs.
House Bill 817 by Representative Davis of the 87th, Scott of the 76th, Schofield of the 63rd, and Bernal of the 77th. Bill be titled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 4 of Chapter 12 of Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to special purpose grand juries.
Judiciary.
House Bill 818 by Representative Davis of the 87th, Scott of the 76th, Schofield of the 63rd. Bill be titled an act to amend Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to revenue and taxation.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 819 by Representative Davis of the 87th, Scott of the 76th, Schofield of the 63rd. Bill be titled an act to amend Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to insurance.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 820 by Representative Powell of the 33rd. Bill be titled an act to amend Code Section 12-946 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to powers and duties of the Board of Natural Resources.
Motor Vehicles.
House Bill 821 by Representative Hughley of the 141st, Buckner of the 137th, Reese of the 140th. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 47 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the Teachers' Retirement System of Georgia.
Retirement.
House Bill 822 by Representative Carpenter of the 4th, Daniel of the 117th, Cooper of the 45th, and Silcox of the 53rd. Bill be titled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 7 of Chapter 2, Title 20 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to competencies and core curriculum.
Education.
House Bill 823 by Representative Bentley, the 150th bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 6 and Title 47 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to Georgia legislative retirement system.
Retirement.
House Bill 824 by Representative Carson, the 46th, Hitchens, the 161st, Crow, the 118th, Lumsden, the 12th, Chokus, the 151st, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 47 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to employees' retirement system of Georgia.
Retirement.
House Bill 825 by Representative Fleming of the 125th and Lever to the 123rd. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 23 of Title 47 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to the judicial retirement system.
Retirement.
House Bill 826 by Representative Martinez of the 111th, Hilton of the 48th, Ballard of the 147th, Silcox of the 53rd, and New of the 64th. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 2, Title 21 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to primaries and elections generally.
Governmental affairs.
House Bill 827 by Representative Smith of the 18th, Dickey the 145th, Burkle the 149th, Lever to the 123rd, Hagan to the 156th, and others. The bill be titled an act to amend Code Section 16820 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to livestock theft.
Yeah. Judiciary non-civil.
House Resolution 599 by Representative Gunner of the 8th, a resolution supporting the Community Champions Initiative.
Special rules.
House Resolution 600 by Representative Davis, the 87th, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution.
Judiciary.
House Resolution 601 by Representative Campbell, the 35th, Hughley, the 141st, Parrish, the 142nd, Evans, the 57th, Westbrook of the 163rd, and others. A resolution to ratify a proposed amendment to the United States Constitution.
Judiciary.
That completes first readers.
I'm going to tell y'all, I've been to the eye doctor lately, and I have 20/20 vision when it comes to that anteroom. There's nobody in there. So, members, please take some of these conversations to the anteroom, or we will be assured of a long day. Thank you. Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 808 by Representative Chokus of the 151st, Geerta of the 152nd, Mathiak of the 74th, Ridley of the 6th, Powell of the 33rd, and others. A bill relating to property tax exemptions and deferral. House Bill 809 by Representative Powell of the 33rd. A bill relating to occupational therapists. House Bill 810 by Representative Vance of the 133rd. A bill relating to buildings and housing. House Bill 811 by Representative Davis of the 87th and Scott of the 76th, a bill relating to warehousemen. House Bill 812 by Representative Gilliard of the 162nd, Beverly of the 143rd, Bruce of the 61st, Mitchell of the 88th, a bill relating to state flag, seal, and other symbols. House Bill 828 by Representative Ridley of the 6th, Hagan of the 156th, Hatchett of the 155th, Jaspers of the 11th, Smith of the 138th, and others, a bill relating to officers of the Department of Transportation. House Bill 829 by Representative Houston of the 170th, Deloach of the 167th, Green of the 154th, Oliver of the 82nd, Stevens of the 164th, and others, a bill relating to the Georgia Legislative Retirement System. House Resolution 568 by Representative Hawkins of the 27th, Mathiak of the 74th, Dempsey of the 13th, Hatchett of the 155th, Martin of the 49th. A resolution creating the House Study Committee on Dentists and Dental Hygienists. House Resolution 598 by Representative Martin of the 49th, Cannon of the 172nd, Williamson of the 112th, Jones of the 25th, Smith of the 138th, and others. A resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to vest judicial power of the state in the Georgia Tax Tribunal. House Resolution 602 by Representative Maynard of the 56th, a resolution recognizing Ms. Charlene Hunter Galt and dedicating a road in her honor. House Resolution 603 by Representative Cooper of the 45th, Newton of the 127th, Owl of the 50th, Hatchett of the 155th, Crow of the 118th. Resolution creating the House Study Committee on Certificate of Need Modernization. House Resolution 604 by Representative Knight of the 134th, resolution creating the House Study Committee on funding for the Technical College System of Georgia. House Resolution 651 by Representative Knight of the 134th, Rhodes of the 124th, Meeks of the 178th, Stevens of the 164th, Sains of the 180th, and others. Resolution urging the Georgia Congressional Delegation to assist in finding reasonable solutions to protect the North Atlantic right whales and Georgia's coastal culture and economy. House Resolution 652 by Representative Ridley of the 6th, Hagan of the 156th, Hatchett of the 155th, Jaspers of the 11th, Smith of the 138th, and others. Resolution proposing the amendment to the Constitution so as to change the selection process for the Commissioner of Transportation. Senate Bill 295 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, a bill to authorize the governing authority of Lumpkin County to levy an excise tax. Senate Bill 300 by Senator Harbison of the 15th, a bill to create a Board of Elections and Registration for Sly County. Senate Bill 303 by Senator Halpern of the 39th, McLaurin of the 14th. Still the 48th, Oric of the 36th, James of the 35th, and others, a resolution or a bill to amend an act providing a homestead exemption from Fulton County ad valorem taxes. Senate Bill 305 by Senator Jones of the 10th, Strickland of the 17th, a bill to provide a homestead exemption from City of Hampton ad valorem taxes. Senate Bill 306 by Senator Jones of the 10th and Strickland of the 17th, a bill to provide a homestead exemption from City of Hampton ad valorem taxes. Senate Bill 309 by Senator Jones of the 10th and Strickland of the 17th, a bill to provide a homestead exemption from City of Hampton ad valorem taxes. Senate Bill 310 by Senator Rhett of the 33rd and Tate of the 38th, a bill to amend an act creating a new charter for the City of Powder Springs. Senate Bill 311 by Senator Anderson of the 43rd and Strickland of the 17th, a bill to amend an act providing a homestead exemptions from Newton County and Newton County School District ad valorem taxation. Senate Bill 312 by Senator Anderson of the 43rd, a bill to amend an act providing an annual salary for the coroner of Rockdale County in lieu of the fee system of compensation. Senate Bill 313 by Senator Anderson of the 43rd, a bill to amend an act creating the Magistrates Court of Rockdale County. Senate Bill 314 by Senator Anderson of the 43rd, a bill to amend an act creating the State Court of Rockdale County. Senate Bill 315 by Senator Anderson of the 43rd, a bill to provide for the supplementary compensation of the judge of the Juvenile Court of Rockdale County. Senate Bill 316 by Senator Anderson of the 43rd, a bill to amend an act providing an annual salary for the judge and probate court of Rockdale County in lieu of the fee system of compensation. Senate Bill 317 by Senator Estevez of the 6th, Oric of the 36th, Halpern of the 39th, Tate of the 38th, Parent of the 42nd, and others. A bill to amend an act to continue the existence of the Atlanta Independent School System under the management and control of the Atlanta Board of Education through second readers.
Reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Representative Beth Camp of the 135th District, Chairman of the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Local, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Locals had under its consideration the following bills of the House. It's instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 807 do pass. Senate Bill 294 do pass. Senate Bill 301 do pass. House Bill 805 do pass. House Bill 806 do pass. Senate Bill 302 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Beth Camp of the 135th District, Chairman. Representative Gunner of the 8th District, Chairman of the Committee on Judiciary, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Judiciary has had under its consideration the following bill of the House. Instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Resolution 519 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Gunner of the 8th District, Chairman. Representative Richard Smith of the 139th District, Chairman of the Committee on Rules, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Rules has had under its consideration the following resolutions of the House. It has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Resolution 603 do pass. House Resolution 604 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Richard Smith of the 139th District, Chairman. That completes the reading of the reports of standing committees.
House will come to order. Members, please take your seats. We're moving on to a vote. We're going to take up the local calendar. 3 bills on the local calendar relate to homestead exemption and require a recorded 2/3 roll call vote for passage. 1 bill on the local calendar is an agree-disagree. Having received the requisite number of signatures required, the House delegation wishes to agree to the Senate substitute to the bill. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills. If there is no objection, we will vote on the local calendar as a whole with a recorded vote. Hearing none, it is so ordered. The clerk will read the local calendar.
House Bill 807 by Representative Chokus, the 151st, Terrell County. Senate Bill 294 by Senator Burns, the 23rd, Town of Kamak. Senate Bill 301 by Senator Walker, the 20th, Dodge County. House Bill 805 by Representative Mathis of the 149th, Twiggs County. House Bill 806 by Representative Mathis of the 149th, Twiggs County. Senate Bill 302 by Senator Sims of the 12th, Early County. House Bill 265 is substituted by the Senate by Representative Carter, the 93rd, Rockdale County.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on the local calendar? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bills? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall these bills now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bills on the local calendar will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of the bills on the local calendar, the yeas are 163, the nays are 0. These bills, having received the requisite constitutional majority, are therefore passed. We're going to take up morning orders at this time. The gentleman from the 44th, Chairman Don Parsons, is recognized to introduce the Doctor of the Day.
Thank you, Speaker. Not mine.
That may be the Sine Die call we're getting up here. I can't find that phone. I don't know which one that is. Let's see.
Thank you, Speaker. It's my honor today to introduce the Doctor of the Day, Ansa Anderson, medical doctor. She, among other things, she has postgraduate training at Drexel University of Medicine in Philadelphia, internship in Drexel University of Medicine.
Gentlemen will suspend. Let me get that thing. Members, we have a physician who's given up her time today to come serve us, so if you would give the gentleman making the introduction your attention, please. Mr. Chairman, continue.
Thank you, Speaker. Again, Dr. Ansa Anderson, medical doctor, is our Doctor of the Day today. She did residency at Drexel University of Medicine in Philadelphia, internship at the same university in Philadelphia, education at St. George's University School of Medicine in Grenada, Kiel University, Kiel, England. Among other things here, I've seen that she was at St. Christopher's Hospital for Children in, I think this is in Philadelphia also. She's had research experience in Kiel University, extensive presentations she's made on medical issues, and numerous awards. And ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ansa Anderson.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. I know you guys are down to the wire and I won't take up much of your time, but it's my pleasure to serve you today. If you need me, I will be in the nurse's office as we kick off Doctors Week as well, so it's very exciting to be here. Thank you for all of your tireless work that you guys do to help pass laws that help to dictate my practice here in Georgia. Thank you.
House will come to order. Chairman Hitchens, Chairman Lumsden, need you up here. Representative Crow, Saines, Chairman Saines. Yeah, I think that's enough. Every time. Members, if you give your attention, the chairman's going to be in the well. Clerk will read a resolution.
House Resolution 530 by Representative Collins of the 71st, Kelly of the 16th, Smith of the 18th, Huddleston of the 72nd, and Burns of the 159th. A resolution commending Sergeant First Class William Butch Thornton upon his retirement and for other purposes. Whereas Sergeant First Class William Butch Thornton has served with honor and distinction as part of the Georgia State Patrol since 1985, beginning his career as a utility worker in the mailroom. And whereas as Post Commander of Post 4, which serves Carroll and Douglas counties, he has led his employees in enforcing traffic laws, supporting local agencies, and upholding the four core beliefs of the Department of Public Safety: trust, fortitude, compassion, and professionalism. And whereas during his distinguished tenure, Sergeant First Class William Butch Thornton has completed more than 4,500 hours of training in the area of impaired driving recognition, firearms accident investigation and reconstruction, child trafficking, gang violence, and community policing. And whereas he is an honest and dedicated public servant, who strives for excellence in all of his endeavors and whose primary concern is the welfare and safety of the citizens of Georgia. And whereas Sergeant First Class William Butch Thornton is highly regarded by the citizens of his community and by state and local government officials as a man of unquestioned integrity and dedication to the administration of justice and sound principles of law enforcement. And whereas this spirited law enforcement professional has exhibited extraordinary devotion to duty, outstanding loyalty, fine leadership, and meticulous attention to detail in all of his duties, and whereas his inspiring commitment to the welfare of others is an outstanding example of the positive effect law enforcement professionals have on the lives and well-being of others, and whereas Sergeant First Class William Butch Thornton's efficient and effective commitment to excellence will be sorely missed following his retirement on April 1st, 2023, and whereas it is abundantly fitting and proper that gratitude is expressed for the unique and often unheralded contributions of law enforcement professionals on behalf of the citizens of this state. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives that the members of this body commend the care, courage, sympathy, and selfless dedication exhibited by Sergeant First Class William Butch Thornton during his career and extend best wishes for his future health and happiness.
I'll also add the Colonel, your staff, if y'all will join us as well, before I recognize the Chairman. Before I recognize the Chairman, we salute you all. Sergeant, we salute you today, but certainly we recognize the contribution the Georgia State Patrol makes to this state and every citizen of this state. With that, Chairman Collins is recognized to speak to the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to honor one of the Georgia State Patrol's finest troopers, Sergeant Butch Thornton. He's the post commander, as the resolution stated, of Post 4 there in Villa Rica. And to give you a little idea, I was 9 years old when Butch Thornton went to work for the Georgia State Patrol. I've gotten to know him. Serving in this house is an honor, but working with these men and women and getting to know the men and women of the Georgia State Patrol has truly been a pleasure, and I covet their friendship, and I'm so thankful to each and every one of them for putting their life on the line each and every day. Their most important job is to serve and protect us and to go home to their families when their shift is over with. So without any further ado, I want to present to you Sergeant Butch Thornton.
Wow. Look, thank y'all. I'm very humbled to be standing in this chamber. I'm very thankful and grateful that I have been able to complete almost 38 years. 90% of it has been filled with great memories, greater people, and wonderful experiences that, had I chosen another career, I probably would not have gotten to be a part of. So, Colonel, Lieutenant Colonel, the whole command staff, I appreciate y'all being here. I know what's going on through the state, and the fact that y'all are here means a lot to me. It has been my true pleasure, a great honor, to serve the State Patrol, Georgia's finest, and I will certainly carry with me a lot of good memories, and this will be one of them. So thank y'all for taking time to have me this morning, and God bless all of you.
Thank you, Sergeant, for your service, and Laura, we appreciate your support over the years for your husband as he's done his fine work protecting our citizens. Thank you both. We have another special resolution. I'm going to invite Representative Rick Townsend and his guest, whom he will introduce. Clerk will read the caption to a resolution.
House resolution by Representative Townsend, the 179th, and others. A resolution recognizing and commending Jekyll Island Authority Executive Director Jones Hooks on his outstanding public service and retirement.
This is a special day, and another public servant. Representative Rick Townsend from down on the coast is recognized to speak to the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just want to first acknowledge his lovely wife, Stephanie, who's here with us today, Commissioner Mark Williams, and Dole Jensen. Jones is truly a team that you have. That's what's made Jekyll Island special. I'm not going to talk for long. I'm going to let Jones do all the talking. But we do need to recognize some of his achievements today, such as the new convention center that we have down there, his plan and renovations, his team, what they did, the expanded Jekyll Island 4-H camp, the 660 green acre space we have on Jekyll around the golf courses and adjacent lands, construction of 4 new hotels, multi-use paths for Jekyll Island's natural resources so we can all enjoy the natural beauty, and of course, world-renowned Sea Turtle Center and the research they do out there with sea turtles. And there wasn't when this person was picked, if you saw the state of Jekyll, it was in decline. When luckily Buddy Deloach and that group on the Jekyll Island Authority Board hired a good person, a good man, and I'm just proud to know him and call him a friend. I just wanted to thank Jones for your service to the Jekyll Island, the Golden Isles, and the state of Georgia. And you truly will be missed, but I understand you're staying on Jekyll afterwards. So, again, please help me welcome Jones Hooks, Executive Director of Jekyll Island.
Come on, brother. It's all yours.
All right, sir.
Keep it at 30 minutes if you can.
Yes, sir. Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure to be with you, and you and I go way back, and when you were elected, I said, it's so great to have a speaker from South Georgia. Not that we don't like North Georgia, but anyway, I'm honored today to be with you and all of your colleagues here who are standing in support, and of course, a couple of JIA board members, DNR Commissioner Mark Williams. Just appreciate your being here, Mark, and past board members. Buddy Deloach is here as well, and he has a love for Jekyll Island. And I also would be remiss if I didn't say something about Chairman Matt Hatchett and what a great friend he has been over the years for Jekyll Island. I want to just share with you just a minute. The past 15 years have been exciting times on Jekyll Island, and hopefully many of you have been back to see the changes that we have been able to make with the board's help, with the state legislature's help, and with Governors Perdue, Deal, and Kemp. Along the way, the board and I have been committed to improvements, but yet to making certain that the integrity of Jekyll's historic and natural character remained in place. Last October, Mr. Speaker, we celebrated 75 years of the state's purchase of Jekyll Island for $675,000. I'm pleased to report today that the authority's operational budget remains financially self-sustaining. The new convention center continues to break revenue records. Camp Jekyll welcomes over 12,000 students annually for environmental education. JIA's Sea Turtle Center has treated and released more than 1,000 sea turtles, and more than 3 million visitors come annually now to enjoy the island's beauty and unmatched tranquility. Jekyll Island is successful. And for every state dollar spent on revitalization, we have leveraged $4.40 from the private sector. The next challenge will be to manage capacity and protect the island's unique character for future generations. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.
Members, I know if I were a betting man, leave it at that, that every one of you have been to Jekyll Island. It's a place that belongs to the people of Georgia. It's a place on the coast for the people of Georgia. And I can tell you, as you all know, Jones Hooks has been dedicated to ensure that proposition and that mandate is met, to make sure the people of Georgia have a place on this coast, our coast, to feel at home, to be at home, and enjoy it. Jones, we wish you the best. We're glad you're going to remain on Jekyll. You leave big footprints in the sand that won't be washed away anytime soon. We appreciate you and thank you for the job you've done for each and every one of us and working with us in this house. So we just congratulate you on your retirement. Thank you, sir. Members, I want to also speak to and before he steps down, the Commissioner of DNR, who more importantly was trained in this house, Commissioner Mark Williams. Let's recognize a former member of this house, Mark Williams. Chairman Hitchens, we're going to be ready for you in just a second. Members, we have a lot of good folks here we need to speak to today and recognize in the gallery and on the floor. We appreciate your patience and your attention. We do have numerous morning orders, so I will ask the members to be efficient as possible as you speak to your morning order.
Now.
Members, if I can have your attention, please. We have a little more procedural business we need to tend to before we go to our morning orders. This is very important. Can I have your attention? Pursuant to Senate Resolution 214 and OCGA 21-2-30, The next order of business is the nomination and election of the chairperson of the State Elections Board. The House is now open for nominations for the chairperson of the State Elections Board. Chair now recognizes the gentleman from the 8th House District, Chairman Stan Gunther, for a nomination.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I nominate a retired United States District Judge for the Northern District of Georgia and a former U.S. State's Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia, William S. Duffy, Jr., as the next State Board of Elections Chairman.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from the 81st, Representative Scott Holcomb.
Mr. Speaker, I second the nomination for Judge Duffy to serve as the chair of the State Election Board.
Chair recognizes the majority leader for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that nominations be closed and at the appropriate time that Judge Duffy be confirmed by acclamation of the House.
Is there any objection to closing the nominations? Chair hears none, and the nominations are closed. On the election of the chairperson of the State Elections Board, those voting for the Honorable William Duffy should vote yes or green, and those opposed should vote no or red, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the election of the chairperson of the State Elections Board, the Honorable William S. Duffy received 173 votes. There's no nays. Having received a majority vote of the membership of the House of Representatives, the Honorable William S. Duffy is hereby declared elected chairperson of the State Elections Board. Mr. Clerk, please immediately transmit Chairman Duffy's name to the Senate for confirmation. Congratulations, Chairman Duffy. Excuse me, Judge Duffy. Thank you, members. Now we're ready to move on to morning orders. Chairman Hitchens, let me try you again. The gentleman from down in Effingham County, Chairman Bill Hitchens, is recognized for a morning order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and I are really happy to welcome a significant group from Effingham County here today. Welcome to the People's House. I'd like to ask you to stand. The Mayor of Rankin, Councilman, the Chief of Police, our Effingham Heroes organization, and most importantly, the Gallagher family. And the primary reason we're here today is back last June, just before the 4th of July in Rankin, we have what's known as a 4th of July parade, but we call it Freedom Rings. And during that parade, I happened to be the Grand Marshal, and I was sitting in the catbird seat. The Chief of Police led the parade, the Sheriff was second, and I was third. And as we were in the parade, all of a sudden I saw a car come in the opposite direction where all traffic had been shut off. At first I thought it was somebody who was just lost and made a wrong turn who came in, and but as he approached the parade, he didn't slow down. He continued on. The Chief of Police swerved and tried to block him, and he went around the chief. The sheriff moved over and tried to block him, and he went right by me.
I will give my friends in the 3rd Infantry Division credit. The 3rd Infantry Division band was right behind me. Instruments and all of them went into the ditch pretty rapidly as if they were in a combat situation. But the individual continued on at high speed. There were children out there, children's dance groups. It was a pretty significant sized parade. So they called ahead and they had a fire truck try and block the parade. He turned sideways and they went around the fire truck. And as they continued on, K-9 Officer Gallagher, who's pictured in the picture there on the right, that's the chief, Officer Gallagher, and his K-9 Razor. He saw him coming, he lined up with him, and in order to stop him and save life and property, he hit him head on. It totaled out his SUV. He was hospitalized, the officer was hospitalized, and as I understand it, Razor just had to undergo surgery here recently for the damages that were inflicted upon him. So we wanted, Officer Gallagher, if you'd raise your hand so we could recognize you for your valor and in all honesty, we wanted to do a House resolution, but we got the information too late and the dates were full. So, but welcome to the People's House, and thank you for everything you do for our citizens in Effingham County.
We thank you for those heroic actions. You saved lives. Thank you so much, and what you do every day for the people, not only of Rincon, but for our entire state. We appreciate you. Representative Danny Mathis is recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members of the House. Today I come to you and I have a resolution that I want to read to you. We have a crisis going on in this country, in this state, and in our local communities. It's the fentanyl crisis. And we've written this resolution that says, whereas the fentanyl epidemic is one of the biggest threats facing the citizens of Georgia, and whereas according to the CDC, 107,375 people in the United States died of drug overdoses and drug poisons in the 12-month period ending in January of 2022. And 67% of those deaths involve synthetic opioids like fentanyl. And whereas from 2019 to 2021, fentanyl overdoses deaths increased by 232% in Georgia alone. Amongst age 10 to 19, fentanyl is responsible for a staggering 800% increase in overdose deaths during the same time period. And whereas fentanyl is being found not only by itself, but also illegal drugs such as methamphetamine, heroin, and cocaine, often causing unaware buyers to ingest what they believe to be methamphetamine, heroin, or cocaine, but instead get almost pure fentanyl with fatal results. And whereas the drugs sold by the criminal street gangs, often supplied by Mexican-based cartels, are some of the methods for how fentanyl is finding its way to Georgia. Fentanyl is also being smuggled through legal ports hidden amongst cargo. And whereas this rise in fentanyl in Georgia puts law enforcement tasked with stopping these drugs, as well as first responders trying to save lives at risk. Fentanyl exposure to law enforcement officials is on the rise and puts their lives in danger from receiving an accidental overdose as well. Deployment of Naxicon, commonly referred to as Narcan, provides temporary protection. An opioid overdose can turn fatal in as little as 6 minutes. But Naxicon can reverse it almost instantly. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives that the members of this body strongly support the work being done by law enforcement agencies across Georgia, as well as their federal partners, to combat this crisis. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank you for your concern and your help with this. Majority Leader Chuck Efstration, thank you for your help. Majority Whip James Burchett, I thank you for your help. Chairman Stan Gunner, I appreciate your help. Chairman Tyler Paul Smith, thank you. Representative Martin Montahan, Representative Barry Fleming, a Representative and Governor's Floor Leader Matthew Gamble, Representative Joseph Gullett, and Representative Mitchell Scoggins. I'd also like to bring to attention Public Safety Appropriations Chairman, Chairman Bill Hitchens, and Public Safety Committee Chair Jay Collins for their input. I would also like to thank Pete Skandalakis, I'll say that, Lakis, excuse me, Executive Director. Pete will get me on that one, won't he? The Prosecuting Attorney's Council of Georgia, he's Executive Director. He has been most helpful. But most of all, I would like to lift up the parents of Caroline Meadows, who lost her life to a fentanyl overdose back in August of 2021. If Joe and Wendy Meadows would please stand. Caroline died of an overdose. Wendy and Joe have been on a mission. They are lifelong friends of mine. I grew up in the same town of Cochran in Bleckley County. Some of you folks may know Joe's sister, Laura Meadows, that helped us so many years with the biennials. They are a prominent family from our community and well thought of. Wendy and Joe have been a passion to stop this crisis, not so much as to incarcerate, but to educate. They want to educate parents the harms and the horrors of what's happening. They are on a mission. We had a meeting with the Executive Director, Pete Skandalakis. I got it that time. And we had a meeting today, and we are going to pursue this. We had several people that offered bills this year. We didn't get them through, but I think with the help of the folks that I just mentioned and Executive Director Skandalakis, we are going to be able to put a bill together next year that's going to help us curb this terrible, terrible crisis that we're having. I thank you. And I honor you. If you will look at Caroline, this beautiful young lady, life cut short. If we can have a moment of silence for her. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Mathis. And to the Meadows family, our heart goes out to you. Thank you all for being here. Representatives Crow and Representative Tim Fleming recognized for a morning order.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by some champions this morning, and we'd like to welcome the Lady Cougars from Piedmont Academy in Monticello, Jasper County, Georgia. We have the girls basketball team coached by Michael Wilson and assistant coach Ron Holders here as well. They won the GIAA Class 2A state championship for the first time in program's history. They worked very hard this season, finishing with a 22-9 record. And with them, we also have the Lady Cougar softball team, coached by Joe Johnson. I believe he's not able to make it today, but assistant coach Elizabeth Green is here. And the girls Lady Cougar softball team won for the third year in a row the state championship. So we'd like to welcome them to the house. They're also joined by assistant head of school Jennifer Stenender. So if they would stand here and we'd welcome them. Thank you. Great job. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Welcome. Representative Gullett is recognized for a morning order. And friends. He has friends.
I got friends, Mr. Speaker.
I'm shocked.
Sometimes I am too, Mr. Speaker. This morning we're also have the honor and privilege of having some champions with us today. Those of you who know Micah Gravely know he loved to coach softball. Turns out he's pretty good at it. And also his team is even better than he is as a coach. This House did a resolution recognizing their accomplishments last fall, but I want to mention their accomplishments even just last night. They placed first in a tournament called the Big Bang Tournament in Chattanooga and traveled back last night to be with us here this morning. They have players from Paulding County, Cobb County, Whitfield County, Heard County, Carroll County, and DeKalb County. This all welcome this great team and our former colleague, Coach Micah Gravely, and the EC Bullets Gravely team. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. They'll be here to take pictures in the hallway, too, if you want to take a picture with them.
And happy birthday, Representative Gullett. Happy birthday to you, man. Today is Representative Gullett's birthday. And members, former state representative Micah Gravely is also in attendance. Welcome back, Representative Gravely. Chairman Gunther is recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a different sort of champions that I want to recognize from my home county, Union County. The Community Champions Initiative of Union County was put together, or about a decade or so ago, began planning for coordination of services and education to help our youth have careers and jobs at home so that they don't move away, and also that we have housing for them. These are great people that have sacrificed a lot of time, and I want to recognize they're up in the corner up here. If y'all would please stand so everybody can see you. These are tremendous leaders and great sacrifice that they've done to do this, and I want to thank them for their hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Martinez is recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we stand here today to denounce socialism and communism and support the millions of victims of communism. There are still some countries today in the world that are ruled by communist government. China, Laos, North Korea, Vietnam, and my beloved country of Cuba, just 90 miles away from our shores, Mr. Speaker. You see, my parents fled Cuba when I was born in Puerto Rico. I know what it's like to still have family there. How many of you have been to Cuba? Took a cruise, right? Took an airplane, right? Spent a couple days there. Great. Do you know that the folks, the native Cubans, don't have the same access that you all have? By the way, what you're doing is you're supporting that government. So I'm sure you had a good time. Mr. Speaker, I come today to do a House resolution for the victims of communism that I see there. Could you please stand up? The victims of communism. Thank you so much. Thank you. By the way, you guys know what this book is. Anybody knows what this book is? This is my ration book in Cuba. It's called La Libreta. All right? This is what happens when you live in a communist country. All right? You get to ration. You get to stand in line every day and mark down how many cups of sugar you get a day. How many loaves of bread you get a day. Let's hope, and I'm going to keep fighting, let's hope that we in this country do not get a libreta or a ration book. Let's do that. Absolutely. This is what my family that's there now gave me this a few years ago. And I keep it every day, and I put it in my desk every day, just a reminder of how much we have to fight in this country to keep communism and socialism away. I want to thank Matt Reeves for doing this, for sponsoring this resolution, and all the sponsors of this House resolution. Thank you so much, Speaker, and I yield the well. Thank you.
Representative Marion is recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, buenos días a todos. And I agree with Representative Martinez on his remarks. And I want to say hello to Jose Perez, good friend. Well, but I'm here this morning is to recognize Mr. Rudy and Hilda Abbott, the owners of Root Hill Companies. It's a real estate company. But what they have unique in the real estate company is that they have a nonprofit called Root Hill Cares that creates and supports low-income senior citizens and disabled veterans to repair their homes without having them to move out because they can not afford to make repairs. Also, Ms. Hilda Abbott is helping our Hispanic youth in Georgia to create the Future Real Estate Lab, which will help and empower our youth to take charge of their economic growth. So I know they're here. Would you stand, please, and be recognized? Thank you for being here, Mr. Speaker. I yield the will.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Taylor and Representative Barnes is recognized for a morning order. And friends.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's still morning. Good morning, colleagues. In a time where youth violence and crime in our state is at an all-time high, programs like the one I'm about to introduce are of the utmost importance. Today we have visiting with us Mr. Kwame Johnson, who is the president of the Big Brothers and Big Sisters program here in our state. He's up there. Mr. Johnson serves as the president and CEO of Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Metro Atlanta, overseeing the largest and most effective youth mentoring agency in Georgia that has drastically transformed the organization's operations. Mr. Johnson has increased revenue by 190% since he's been the president. Mr. Johnson found his passion while incarcerated during his senior year of high school. During this challenging time, he decided to change his life and made history by becoming the first youth to ever take his SATs in jail. Kwame was accepted into Hampton University and decided to leave college at the age of 19 to become a social entrepreneur and has dedicated his life to service. Colleagues, can we please stand and recognize Mr. Kwame Johnson?
Representative Tim Fleming, Representative Carter, and Representative Henderson.
If I may, Mr. Speaker, thank you. And they're here today to ask you to join their mission of being mentors and to the mentees. And you all have a flyer on your desk. If you would just scan that code, they'll set you up with the mentee for the boys and for the girls. We ask that ask for your support, and they're going to be down in the ante room. And we do have with him Commissioner Steve Bradshaw, the Cobb County Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, members. Representative Tim Fleming, Representative Carter, Representative Henderson, and the Newton County is recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're honored to have with us today leaders from Newton County with us today. Stand up for Newton County Day at the Capitol. Many of our local officials and business leaders. We're honored to have representatives from Rivian. Many of y'all might have seen the bright yellow truck outside. But also, we have the CEO of Bridgestone Golf, Mr. Dan Murphy. Wave your hands. As y'all notice on your desk today, you've been getting ready for the Masters next week. They were generous enough to give us some golf balls, golf towel that's made just for the legislators, and a hat. So thank y'all very much, Newton County and Bridgestone, Mr. Murphy. Thank y'all.
Good to have y'all. Thank you for being here, and thanks for the golf balls. Representative Alexander is recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have a group here today. The Douglas County Youth Commission was founded in 2018 and is comprised of high school sophomores, juniors, and seniors. The program is dedicated to educating young citizens about their local government and the opportunities available in the public sector. If you guys can rise and be recognized, and colleagues, thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Vance is recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday morning at approximately 7:30, an F1 tornado hit the town where I'm from, Millersville, Georgia. Thankfully, blissfully, no one was seriously injured. A lot of property damage from the hospital on to the former health department, Northside Baptist Church, and other places in between. I want to stand here today and thank all the first responders in GEMA, linemen from Georgia Power and Sumter Industries, the fire, EMS, and law enforcement from Baldwin County, Washington County, City of Sandersville, City of Millersville, and all the volunteers with chainsaws and willing hands. The tornado was approximately a quarter of a mile wide and 1.5 miles long. I do want to thank you for your prayers and your continued support. That's the bad news. Now the good news. We are joined this morning by a group of young men who have won 50 consecutive football games, a state record. The John Millage Academy Trojans, they have won 4 consecutive state championships. They have won the state championship 5 out of the last 7 years. They are coached by a former Bulldog, Mr. J.T. Wall. And I do have a proclamation and resolution that I'll present to you afterwards. Thank you, young men, for being here and for all you do, and thank y'all, Chamber, for having us.
Thank you. Welcome. I've seen them play. They're pretty good. Congratulations, guys. Representative Jasmine Clark is recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This morning, I want to welcome the Brookwood High School girls basketball team and congratulate them on winning the Region 4 7A State Basketball Championship. This is their first girls basketball state championship ever. The team is led by Coach Courtner Mincy, and I'd also like to welcome Brookwood High School Principal Savage to the Capitol as well. They're in the gallery. Thank you for standing. Congratulations, ladies, and welcome to the People's House.
Representative Hutchinson is recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. I'm going to continue Champions Day by welcoming the Stingray All-Stars Scarlet team. Will y'all rise? The Stingray Scarlets, the Scarlet Stingrays competed in the Atlanta Athletic Championship March 18th and 19th of this last competition. They won their division. They scored their personal best. They had the highest overall score in the entire competition, and now the Scarlet Rays prepare for the biggest competition of the season in Orlando, the Super Bowl of cheer. And I have a partial favorite team member, and that is my niece, Lexi, right here. Raise your hand so I can embarrass you. Thanks. Thank you, and welcome to the People's House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman Powell and Representative Oliver are recognized for a morning order.
Come on up. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen of the House. We're here this morning to honor the life and the legacy of a former House member, Elliot Levitas. Elliot Levitas served in this House back in the 60s and was the first Jewish congressman elected to the U.S. Congress. Now, there's a lot of things I can tell you. Elliot was, he was a graduate of Emory and Oxford University and a Rhodes Scholar. Man of impeccable character, and as is usual for a lot of y'all who've heard my commentary about the older legislators, they used to be of character. Not that you don't have character, but these folks had real character. And with that, I'm going to say just to tell a short story about Elliot. When Elliot was elected, Speaker Murphy and some of the others, they were in power at that particular time. And there was a member of this house that used to sit right over there, and his name was Harry Dixon. Now, for a lot of you who've never heard of Harry Dixon, now he was a character of the old school. Harry was a railroad engineer from down in Waycross, and he could tell more stories, and it's a shame that a lot of those stories weren't recorded for the future. But when Elliott was elected, and him being a Rhodes Scholar, they were having a meeting trying to decide where they were going to place committee members at that time. And one of them, Speaker Murphy, or one of them said something to Harry about, well, he's a Rhodes Scholar, and Harry said, well, he'd be perfect to be on the Transportation Committee since he knows so much about roads. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is a little brief story about the Honorable Elliott Levitas, and a man of true character, who one of the things that he taught me, and I always lived up to it, but he always said that if you get involved in an issue, wade into it up to your neck, and don't be afraid of it. I'm going to turn it over to my friend, Chairman Oliver.
Congressman Levitas was my constituent through my long political career. Not only was he the only Rhodes Scholar that ever served on this floor or the Senate floor, but he was also a leading professional as a lawyer with a major law firm. He was the primary author and sponsor of the MARTA bill when he was here, and in Congress he was noteworthy for many important improvements for the lives of Georgians. It was an honor to represent him, and it was an honor to know that there are professionals that served on this body that continue their public service in very important and very significant ways. God bless Elliott Levitas and his family.
Got one thing I want to say. I've asked the Speaker for permission. I knew Congressman Levitas, and what I knew about him best personally was he was the only Southern congressman to vote for the 1964 Civil Rights Bill. A great man.
Thank you, members. And his son served honorably in this house as well. So what a great tradition from that family. Representative Gamble is recognized for a morning order, joined by Representative Scoggins and other friends.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know Representative Sharper is also going to join us this morning. We lost a great man back on September the 14th in 2022. Don Holt, who many of you, all of you knew and remember well, was a doorkeeper. And Don was just a wonderful, wonderful man. He was a U.S. Air Force veteran. He worked for Foxborough Inc. and Georgia Power throughout his career. He was a faithful member of Mikado Baptist Church. He leaves behind us a precious wife who is still a doorkeeper for us, Miss Donna, that we love to see every day. In addition to his 4 kids, Alicia, Don Jr., Nancy, and Tara, and 4 grandchildren, Kaylin, Tyler, Chase, and Amberly. And Parnick Jennings is a friend of Don and Donna's, and he came down from Cartersville. They got to know each other through the Regency Towers Condominium Association in Florida. And Don was just a character, but he was a man of his word. And we wanted to do something to honor Don's life and the fact that he's no longer with us today. So, Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to come down this morning and just to recognize our friend Donna and to Don, and to honor our friend Donna, who so faithfully serves our chamber every day as a doorkeeper. We love you and appreciate you, Donna, and you're in our prayers. Thank you.
And I want to mention one thing, Speaker, that if you ever see me whenever I have my red jacket, I'm just be brief with you. We used to share phones with each other and talk to each other, but we would call each other and say, we're going to wear the red jacket with a particular tie, with a particular shirt. So whenever you see me wear that red jacket, it's also in honor of Mr. Dunn, and so I appreciate that, and I really miss him so much. So thank y'all very much.
Thank y'all for those memories. He was a fine man. I enjoyed his company a lot. Representative Tran is recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to expand on what the gentleman said earlier. We still have many families to come to Georgia today to escape oppression, which is why I want to recognize a nonprofit in my district off Beaufort Highway. If Los Vecinos is still in the house, please stand up. Stephanie and Los Vecinos provides an indispensable 501c3 in the Beaufort Highway area. They go by the principles of love your neighbor, honor all people, share in all things, and break bread together. Thank you. And so Los Vecinos, thank you for being here. Thank you for being an indispensable part of Georgia and helping immigrant families be a productive member of our state. Welcome to the state capitol. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Chaz Cannon is recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise this morning to recognize and embarrass my oldest daughter, Catherine, who is paging today. She just turned 13 last Friday and is well on her way to becoming a beautiful, beautiful young lady. Catherine was born 3 months premature, just 25 weeks old when she was born, weighed 1 pound, 12 ounces at birth, and spent more than 3 months in the NICU at Phoebe Putney in Albany, Georgia. Today, she's a 7th grader at Willie J. Williams Middle School. She serves as an elected officer in her FFA chapter. She's on the tennis team. She loves horses, plays guitar. Her mother and I are so proud of her and are so thankful she's our beautiful daughter. We love you, Catherine. Thank you very much.
Representative, while you're in the well, why don't you recognize your beautiful wife, the mother of your daughter, and your younger daughter over there.
Beautiful wife, Beth, and my youngest daughter, Allie, on the wall there behind Noah Williams. Appreciate the help, Mr. Speaker. I needed that one.
I'm trying to help you all I can there, Representative, all I can. Chairman Blackman is recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Fellow colleagues, we have a group that's with us here this morning. I want to thank the Rogers, Steve Rogers and Ginger Rogers, part of the Servants Task Force, that have helped us put together a resolution honoring the men and women who have served, are serving, or will one day serve in either law enforcement, the military branches of the United States, or as firefighters, and recognizing May 2023 as United in Uniforms Recognition and Memorial Month. Would y'all please stand and let us honor you along with all the others that help keep us safe. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome. That completes morning orders. We'll move on to the rules calendar. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 109-109.
Senate Bill 109 by Senator Eccles of the 49th and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 7 of Chapter 4, Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to medical assistance generally, so as to require the Department of Community Health to include continuous glucose monitors as a pharmacy benefit for Medicaid recipients. This bill having referred to the Committee on Public Health, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair Lady Ballinger is recognized to present the bill. Chair Lady Ballinger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to present before you Senate Bill 9. The first part of Senate Bill 9 has to do with white bagging, and white bagging kind of sounds a little bit nefarious to me, but it really just has to do with insurance companies try to get in between providers and their patients. Whenever you're a cancer patient and you show up to get your infusion, or perhaps you're an MS patient, there are lots of conditions that are covered under this. You go, you get weighed, your blood chemistry is taken, and your dosage is mixed up according to your blood chemistry and your weight. You know, the particular cocktail is mixed up right then and there. And so the insurance companies want to interfere with this and make you have your prescriptions maybe a day, maybe several days in front of your actual infusion date. So this can cause all sorts of problems for the patient. So this would basically prohibit that. The second section of House Bill 109 allows DCH to cover continuous glucose monitors. The patient must be diabetic and it requires training, and the patient must use daily insulin. and it must have an appointment with their provider in person or via telehealth every 6 months to check on the efficacy of the continuous glucose monitors and make sure that they're working as they should. Mr. Speaker, that's all I have to say about Senate Bill 109, and I'll be happy to yield to any questions.
You have no questions.
Mr. Speaker, and I urge your favorable
You
consideration.
do have a question.
Okay.
To your left, Representative Lisa Campbell has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentlewoman yield the well?
Sure.
Yes. So I'm asking the question, this bill then eliminates interference between healthcare providers and their patients. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And may I make one more
Sure.
further inquiry? Is it not true that my mother, who is a stage 4 ovarian cancer survivor, who had severe complications due to chemotherapy, certainly benefited from having close attention and care in the moment during her chemotherapy treatments?
Yes, that is typical of many of our cancer patients here in the state of Georgia, and we're just trying to maintain that close relationship between the doctor and the patient.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I'll yield to any other questions.
You have no further questions.
Thank you, and I urge your favorable consideration.
The lady has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Chair hears none. The committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. All members voted. All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 170, the nays 5. The bill, having received requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of SB 146?
Senate Bill 146 by Senator Gooch of the 51st and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 2 of Title 46, Chapter 1 of Title 10, and Article 1 of Chapter 9 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating the jurisdiction and powers and duties of the Georgia Public Service Commission generally. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Technology and Infrastructure Innovation. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by Rules Committee substitute.
Chairman of Transportation, Chairman Jasper, is recognized to present the bill.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Committee members, House members, we've seen this before. This is almost the same bill that I brought before you a few weeks ago on the work of the Joint Commission on the Electrification of Transportation. The bill does three things. It allows the sale of power by retail by others than Georgia Power and the EMC, allows the regulation of electric vehicle charging stations throughout the state, and the taxation on the sale of electricity. We've made a few changes between here and there, the main one being the rate. And if you look on page, if you're so inclined, page 14, line 334, you see a number going from 9 to 11. And so that works inversely. That decreases the rate that we had put in earlier. The rate for the sale of electricity, the excise tax, will be 2.84 cents per kilowatt hour instead of, if it were 9, 3.47. I appreciate everyone's work, especially on this across the aisle and everywhere, getting this through with Senator Gooch and the senators and all the different committees that has a touch on this bill. The main thing it does is it really makes sure that we continue funding transportation infrastructure. That's the roads and bridges across our state. If you listen to us in transportation talk very often, that's the key thing that we've got to work on. It's something we have to work on in the future, especially with freight and logistics funding. I look forward to working on that. Mr. Speaker, that's my bill. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
You do have a couple of questions. To your left, Representative Al Williams is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
For clarification, there is a charging station at the Dublin exit. That's the only one I know between my house and Atlanta.
Yes.
Can you tell me what break down the cost now? What does it cost to charge an average car, and what will it be after this bill passes?
I don't know the dollar amount, Mr. Williams, but what it will do is now you're purchasing electricity based on time. After this bill is signed, you'll be paid at the effective date. You'll purchase it on the kilowatt hours sold to you. So it will be a change, but it should be similar. But you're going to buy what you pay for. You can pay for what you get what you pay for. Excuse me.
Will you yield for a
Sure.
follow-up?
Oh yeah.
Are you aware? Do you know if Chairman Hatcher owns an interest in that one at the Dublin exit?
No, I didn't know that.
He saw me stand up.
But if he did, I knew you'd be even more for it, I'm sure.
Chairman yield.
Yes, sir.
Another member of the Williams caucus, Representative Mary Frances Williams, to your left, has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the chairman, my question is this. I think one version of this bill prohibited free charging, and I know a lot of establishments offer free charging. Is this bill going to do that?
Yes, ma'am. Well, no, it won't, because if you want to do free charging, that's up to you as a business person. Like you could give away Coca-Cola if you wanted to increase your business, but the sale of power through that machine, through that EV charger, will be excise tax and sales tax as it should be. It's up to them to give it away if they choose to.
Further question?
Sure.
So you're saying that someone will have to pay for that electricity at that quote-unquote free pump?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
And one more question.
Sure.
Do you know for certain, because that these pumps that have been installed all over the state at, Publix and other places, are they capable of monitoring, keeping up with that charge so that these establishments could continue to offer free charging?
Yes, ma'am, they have been. I've been assured that most of them, the software will be a software change for how it's billed.
Okay.
And now some of them, like you'll see in one of the bill changes that were made, that Tesla uses an app. Now, their charger doesn't have a screen to look at it. You look through your app. Each of them has a little bit different method of how they know who you are, know for you to pay it. But mostly important for Rick and all of us should be that we get our excise tax to keep our roads and bridges in good shape.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a great bill, and we're off to a great start with electric vehicles. Just a little bit concerned about those free chargers. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Gentleman yield.
Yes, sir.
Representative Drenner, to your left.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
I agree with that this is a great first start. I'm just curious, with these changes in the bill, is this going to make Georgia about the most expensive place in the nation to own and operate an EV vehicle?
No, ma'am, it will not. With the change, especially, going from, like say, 9 to 11, it'll put us in the middle of the pack. When it was at 9, we were probably at the highest, but with 11, we'll be in the middle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Martin, to your right, has a question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, would you yield for a question?
Oh, absolutely.
Isn't it true that the way we treat electricity, sale for resale, and someone having to pay tax on, as you mentioned, is just like you would for that Coca-Cola you mentioned? You either pay sales tax or the person that's giving away has to pay a use tax. So we're treating electricity the same way. Isn't that true?
Yes, sir, you're right. Thank you.
And the next question I wanted to ask is about the fee for the registration. Can you talk about the need for this to go into place, and then that isn't it true that in rules you mentioned that fee would be looked at over the years to make sure it's being right-sized and is appropriate over
You're
time?
talking about the fee that
The
an individual
registration fee,
owns.
yes, sir.
Yes, yeah. And we will. I think the key thing that's coming on that, you'll see with GDOT is now has a pilot program to look at vehicle miles traveled, which will probably put a lot of light on that, where that fee is at the right place or it isn't.
Representative Tran, to your left, has a question. Gentleman's recognized.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the chairman yield to a question?
Absolutely.
So I very much support this bill and will be voting for it. But I have had a lot of constituents ask for a clarification, and that is, for lack of a better term, dumb stations. Charging stations that do not have network capability and app capability are not able to meter their electrical uses, and they are essentially free charging stations. Will we be, in this bill, be mandating them to upgrade their charging stations?
Oh, absolutely, we will. I think, number one, Representative, we need to make sure that they're accurate and that they're safe. And I think those are two important things, and most important to me, I guess, is the taxation side of it. But we've got to make sure they're accurate and safe. There is a long lead time. You look at the effective dates of these bills, it's down the road, so they're going to have time to change and update.
Okay. Do you yield for one further question?
Sure, yes, sir.
Do you know what that yield time is? Is it 1 year, 5 years?
The lead time on this is end of 25, I'm not mistaken. And that, the neat thing about this is, like everything we do in this building, I'll have a list of 4 things that I need to work on during the interim to perfect what I have here. And we'll be working on that in the next year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it, Mr. Speaker?
You got a couple more if you want to take them.
Sure,
At least
we want to make sure everybody understands this.
Representative Kennard is recognized to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Absolutely.
We currently assess a 26-cent per gallon fuel tax. What is that calculus with the kilowatt per hour cost, and is it equitable?
It is equitable. That was the key thing that Revenue worked on to make sure it was equitable. And we, through House Bill 170, give them the authority to do that. And if you read through the bill, you'll see these are equitable numbers to a gallon of gasoline.
Okay, one more question.
Sure.
So the gasoline-powered car user and the electric car user are basically paying the same exact state tax, fuel tax?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the thing about gasoline, it's more on use. The more you drive, the more you pay. And for a fee base, as Chairman Martin was talking about, they're paying $213 or so for a year, no mileage included in that. So it's a little different how we do it.
So EV users are not being penalized?
Oh, no, in no way they are. No, sir.
Thank you.
Chairman Carpenter, to your right in the rear, has a question. He's
Does the
recognized.
gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that this tax will allow Georgians to make sure that we're taxing individuals that are driving through our state that are currently paying tax on gas, hopefully that when they stop to charge, that they'll be paying taxes for our roads?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. And they'll also be buying Coca-Colas and wieners and eating at restaurants as they go through the state. Thank you.
Thank you for this bill.
Mr. Chairman, if there are no other questions, I yield well and ask for y'all.
You have some questions, but I'll be glad to let you yield.
Oh, let's keep on going. One couple more, and then we'll.
Don't let your feet grow to the floor up there now.
Yeah, just
Representative Lisa Campbell is recognized for a question to your left.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question related to line 398 on page 17, which talks about no person shall transport motor fuel, and it looks like we've also added over public highways or navigable waters of this state. And this may already be prohibited, but my question is does that also apply to rail transport? And if not, why not?
If in here we're talking about on public highways or navigable waters, except in a transport truck or vessel marked appropriately.
So
you're talking about gasoline usually is not transported by rail.
It's not.
No, ma'am.
Thank you for the clarification.
That I know of. Mr. Chairman, appreciate it. Ask for your favorable consideration on our bill, and please, thank you.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to withdrawing the committee substitute? Chair hears none. The committee substitute is withdrawn. Is there any objection to adopting the substitute offered by the Committee on Rules? The chair hears none. The Rules Committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 175, the nays 1. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Well, for what purpose does Chairman Smith rise?
Make a motion.
State your motion.
I move that Senate Bill 137, 133, and 222 be recommitted to rules.
Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 133, 137, and 222.
Correct.
Senate Bill 137 by Senator Burns, the 23rd, to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 23411 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to definitions regarding tuition equalization grants at private colleges and universities. Senate Bill 133 by Senator Strickland of the 17th, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 11 of Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the Juvenile Code so as to create a uniform process to assume custody of children. Senate Bill 222 by Senator Burns of the 23rd, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to primaries and elections generally so as to provide that all costs and expenses relating to election administration are paid for.
On the gentleman's motion that SB 133, 137, and 222 be withdrawn from the calendar and recommitted to the Rules Committee, is there objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered. Mr. Clerk, if you read the caption to Senate Bill 159, 159.
Senate Bill 159 by Senator Robertson, the 29th, and others, to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 5 of Title 42 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions regarding correctional institutions, estates, and counties so as to prohibit wireless communications and standalone electric devices behind guard lines. This bill having referred to the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chairman Saines is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I bring before you Senate Bill 159. It's a simple bill that seeks to make it clear to individuals who we appreciate working in our correctional facilities to ensure that they're safe and there's no bad actor there, that if you're a contractor or an employee of the Georgia Department of Corrections and you bring illegal contraband to give to an inmate, that the penalty goes from 2 to 10 years, and it does not have the restriction to probate, so there is no mandatory minimum in here, but it does raise the sentence to 10 years. Mr. Speaker, I will yield for a question if there is any.
You have no questions, but we do have a speaker, so you have no questions.
Thank you.
Gentleman's yielded well. Representative Kennard is recognized to speak to the bill. Representative Kennard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to oppose SB 159, and at the risk of sounding preachy, I'm going to open my remarks with a handful of scriptures. I'm very aware that the Bible can be used to manipulate, and it can even be weaponized, and that is not my intent. Hopefully it's not my impact today. I'm also extremely cognizant that the scripture is very versatile and can be skillfully used to say just about anything you want it to say and to support or oppose virtually any issues. For instance, during the Civil War, both Abraham Lincoln and Jefferson Davis both toured their parts of the country using the Bible to build their respective cases because there are anti-slavery and pro-slavery passages in the Bible. You can find plenty of verses to support either side. It is a very versatile 66-book collection indeed. That said, I'm a pastor and I'm all in. I have built a career around the studying and teaching of the Christian scripture. I'm over 35 years in now, and that in no way makes me an expert, far from it. As a matter of fact, the older I get, the less hubris I have. I tend to have a lot more questions than answers. But where my greatest confidence lies is in the four Gospels, the words that are written in red. And for many years now, the words of Jesus of Nazareth have been almost my exclusive focus for my personal devotion and my teaching ministry. And I would be disingenuous to say that my faith does not impact my worldview, because it does. As a matter of fact, I would be truthful in saying that my spiritual journey influences everything I do, including my decision to run for office and to be in this room. The words of Christ have been imprinted on my subconscious since I was a small child. Words like, "To whom much is given, much is required." Words like, "You are the light of the world, you are the salt of the earth." And the implication is for all of us as enlightened spiritual beings to get out and make an impact, to come out of our safe spiritual zones, our churches, our mosques, our temples, and to occupy space right in the middle of society and the world, and to do what we can to make a positive difference, to make the world a better place. Now that I've preambled for a minute here, I've set a stage to provide a context, because I believe the words you're about to hear, the ones written in red, are germane to the issue at hand. At least they are to me. In the Gospel of Luke, it was Jesus' first public conversation, his first public words. He was in the temple worshiping at the place of his youth, and it was his turn to provide the scripture of the day, and he grabbed the scroll from Isaiah and read these words. "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." This is Jesus' first inaugural talk. He was establishing a mission and a vision for Jesus Incorporated. It was a main part of his agenda. He was establishing what was important, what was priority. And in that two sentences, he mentions interaction with prisoners. Now, this was an ongoing theme for Christ. A passage that we're all familiar with is from Matthew 25. As a matter of fact, the late Speaker Ralston used it last year when he was presenting HB 1013. Matthew 25 reads like this: "Then the king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me.' And wait for it, I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Then the righteous will answer him, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you? When did we see you thirsty and gave you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you in sick or in prison and go to visit you? And the king will reply, truly, I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. And then it goes on to say, and he will say to those on his left, depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not look after me. They will also answer, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or needing clothes or sick or in prison and did not help you? And he will reply, truly, I tell you, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me. What I'm doing is establishing what was clearly the priorities for Jesus' public ministry. And in that, those two scriptures, he establishes that prisoners and prisons were not a peripheral issue. It wasn't at the bottom of the list. This was at the top of the list, like top 5. Now, it's not lost on me that Jesus was crucified between 2 thieves, 2 felons. They all sat on death row together awaiting their capital punishment. So Christ was compelling us, if not commanding us, to be involved on a personal level with hunger, sickness, and the prison system, to be consistently involved. This was not just a part of the ministry, this was the ministry, and it compels us to be involved too, not just making an end-of-year donation to the cause, not to just go to a soup line during the holidays, but these were the Jesus things, his central focus and mission, the main things. He wanted his followers to have a deep understanding of these priority issues: hunger, poverty, health care, and yes, incarceration. He wanted us to have better understanding. The word understand literally means to stand under. In other words, when you have proximity to an issue, when you stand under it, you will have better and deeper understanding of it. Because from a distance, issues look one way, but when you get up close and personal, you have a deeper, more thoughtful, mindful understanding of it. And when you start having proximity to these issues like hunger and homelessness and incarceration and health care, when you engage on a consistent basis, you start asking questions. Questions like, why do we have hunger to begin with? Questions like, why do we have disparities in health care to begin with? Questions like, why do we have this many number of people incarcerated to begin with? So I want us to take a minute this morning to look under our prison system and see firsthand what's going on and who is behind bars. When you stand under our prison system, when you look at who is behind bars in the state of Georgia, you're going to see some consistent groups. Number one is you're going to see the mentally ill. You're going to see the mentally ill and those who suffer from substance use. We have made some great strides with HB 1013, the Mental Health Parity Act that we passed last year, and hopefully we'll see the passage of HB 520 this year. We're making strides to turn this corner, but as it sits right now, the largest mental health service provider in our state is Georgia State Prisons. So when you look under the system, it's going to be a glaring, stark reminder that it is the mentally ill and those who suffer from substance use that are being locked up in our prison system. Secondly, you're going to see the poor incarcerated. Most of the folks locked up in our state prison system had a public defender. Why? Because they did not have enough financial resources to lawyer up and to get really good representation. As a result, they're getting what they can take. And there are a lot of good public defenders out there, and we appreciate them. I know a lot of them. But the reality is they're overworked, their caseloads are stretched thin, and they cannot properly represent the folks that they do. And unfortunately, the poor get harsher sentences, longer sentences. You're going to see the poor behind bars. When you look underneath our prison system, you're also going to see, in addition to the mentally ill and the poor, you're going to see minority groups. It's glaring. The truth is, in this century, 1 in 3 African American males will have a brush up with the justice system. For white males, that is 1 in 17. There are more African American males involved in our correction system in America today than were enslaved in 1850. Georgia's African American population is 30%. But in our prison system, African Americans represent almost 60%. You have to ask why. Is it because African Americans are more inherently criminal? No, it's just there is bias in our system that cannot be denied. Just a couple of weeks ago, we passed compensation resolutions for Mario Stinchcomb, Michael Woolfolk, Devania Inman, and Terry Talley, who we discovered were wrongfully convicted. Mario and Michael spent 18 years each. Devania Inman spent 23 years. Terry Talley spent 39 years wrongfully convicted. That's almost a century of time. All 4 of those who were wrongfully convicted were African American males. When we look deeper into our prison system, we can't even ignore the economic drivers. Some say that crime doesn't pay. I say it depends on who you're asking. If you're asking Core Civic, that has private for-profit prisons in Georgia, they'll say that crime actually does pay. They're doing really well. They're traded publicly. You can buy their stock on the stock market today. It's about $9 a share. Some say that crime doesn't pay. I say it depends on who you're asking. Why don't we ask Southeast Corrections, a for-profit private probation company that handles a significant amount of the probationers in our state. If you ask them, they'll say business is really good, especially in Georgia, because we have more people on probation than any other state, 4 times the national average. I think we have lost understanding of our criminal and prison system, and we are legislating from a distance now, and we have lost touch. And that's why we have done such an about-face on criminal justice reform. We've lost our way, and that's why we're seeing all these heavy-hitting sentencing measures. We're not interested in justice. We're not even interested in punishment. These measures better reflect vengeance. When you look at SB 159, lines 61 through 63, it's a testament to how far off we are. In lines 61 through 63 of SB 159, it says that if a prison employee hands someone incarcerated a cigarette, if they just give them a cigarette, they will go to prison not for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, but for 10 years for handing someone a cigarette or for a swig of alcohol. In what universe does that even make sense? That someone serves 10 years for a cigarette. Abraham Maslow said, if the only tool we have is a hammer, then you see every problem as a nail. Governor Deal tried to expand our toolbox and give us more options, but to use an old term from my Bible Belt Pentecostal days, we have backslid. It's hammer time in Georgia, and we are too legit to quit. Our compass needs to be recalibrated. We really need to check our hearts and think about what we're doing, because I remind you, Jesus said, how you treat the incarcerated is a reflection on how you feel about him. Whatever you've done for the least of these, you've done it unto me. So my thoughts are we should examine our hearts and figure out a more respectful, honorable, humane way to incarcerate. I think we should double down on our efforts to decriminalize mental health, to decriminalize poverty, to decriminalize race, and get our incarceration rates down. Let's get our prison facilities up to a habitable standard, many of them which are not. I visit our state prisons. I'm on a tour now to visit all of them, all 34. I've got about halfway done. COVID kind of stopped me in my tracks, but I'm getting back on that circuit. But our prisons need a lot of help. They're in poor conditions. We also need to be more transparent about those conditions. Our DOC employees should start being compensated for what they deserve to get out of financial desperation. We're paying them so little, they have to be in financial desperation that makes them susceptible to this bartering that may be going on. SB 159 does nothing to help our workforce challenges in the DOC, and it probably makes them worse. Now, please understand me. People who break the law should pay consequences. But our state motto is justice, moderation, and wisdom. And our prison policies are none of those three. They're not just, they're not moderate, and they're just not smart. When Georgia was established as a colony by James Oglethorpe, we were established as a penal colony. Prisoners from England would come to the Georgia colony to work off their sentence. Some may argue that we still are, that we're living up to that legacy. Chief Justice Boggs told us just a week ago that in the U.S., 1 in 33 are under correctional control. In Georgia, that number is 1 in 13. Listen, we have 10.7 million people in this state, and we have 4.523 criminal records, individual criminal records, almost 40%. Ladies and gentlemen of this chamber, I'm very sincere in saying this, but I think we can do better. And I look forward to working towards a better Georgia with better criminal justice policies, better prison policies. And for these reasons that I just outlined, I am voting no to SB 159, and I encourage you to do so. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Chair hears none. The committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Here we go. For what purpose does Chairman Knight rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that if you read this bill, all this bill is doing is saying that an employee or a contractor of the Department of Corrections who already breaks the law, aren't we just upping the penalty for bringing contraband into our correction systems in Georgia, which is a problem with drugs, guns, and telecommunications? Isn't that what this bill does?
I've always known the gentleman to be a diligent reader of legislation. I'm sure he believes in what he so speaks. For what purpose does Chairman Newton rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that one of the outcomes of passing SB 159 would be to decrease smuggled weapons that are smuggled to criminal prisoners, and this decrease will help protect those who are incarcerated, trying to serve their sentence and get some training and get out and be part of society?
If the gentleman so states, for what purpose does Chairman Saines rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that both the Defense Attorneys Association and the Prosecutors Association both didn't have objection to this bill during committee, and though slightly beyond the scope of this bill, I started having questions about judicial discretion when Pontius Pilate sentenced Christ to crucifixion.
I'm sure the gentleman knows what he states. For what purpose does Representative Maynard rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that I do agree that we should not let law enforcement provide contraband to those that are jailed? But recently on the news, there was a jailer that was doing inappropriate behavior with an inmate, which involved contraband. And although she should not have done that, I know she does not want to be in prison for 10 years for doing that inappropriate behavior that was on the news. Is that not true?
I'm sure if it was on the news, it must be true. If the lady so states, for what purpose does Representative Vance rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, sir.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that this bill is not about the treatment of inmates who were convicted and incarcerated because of their crimes, but about the employees and vendors who knowingly flaunt the laws they know better than break for the almighty dollar, and that we are a state that should conform to laws?
If the gentleman so states, I'm sure he believes that. For what purpose does Chairman Collins rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that these criminal street gangs are providing these cell phones to inmates, and as such, these inmates are using their influence outside of the prison system to wreak havoc and cause public safety issues for all of Georgia, regardless of where your zip code is or where you live? Is that not true, Mr. Speaker?
Gentleman so states, yes, sir. I tell you, I'm going to take two more. We've debated this issue pretty well. For what purpose does Representative Ramon rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is it not true that one of the biggest problems in our prison system is that people continue to return to that prison system, and particularly there's a correlation with how long they are in that prison system and how often they come back based on that length? So as we continue to pursue these laws, we need to be aware of what we are doing to those individuals.
I'm sure the lady believes what she so states. For what purpose does Whip Burchett rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is it not true that evidenced by lines 54 through 56 that the language reads here, term of imprisonment of 10 years, and because we struck that language, the judge can read it to say we can probate 9 years and serve 1. Isn't that true, Mr. Speaker?
If the gentleman so states, the judge has that discretion. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of the bill. The yeas were 103, the nays 72. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, if you will read the caption to Senate Bill 168. 168.
Senate Bill 168 by Senator Williams, the 25th to be entitled an act to amend Part 8 of Article 8 of Chapter 14 and Title 44 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to liens of hospitals and nursing homes so as to allow a chiropractic practice to have a lien on a cause of action. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Representative Leverett is recognized to present the bill.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I'm presenting you Senate Bill 168, another bill initiated by our former colleague, Senator Rick Williams. I know Representative Thomas always enjoys a good Yogi Bear quote, and I think this is deja vu all over again would be appropriate for this bill, because I believe this has been tried before, and we're hoping this year it finally makes it. It amends an existing statute referred to often as the hospital lien statute. It's a statute which allows hospitals and physicians and nursing homes and burn trauma centers a lien against a cause of action, not against the individual, not against the individual patient's property, but against the cause of action so that they can increase the chances they'll get paid. Basically what that means is if there's a settlement based on a claim that the patient had against a third party, like in a car accident or something of that nature, the lien helps the healthcare provider get paid from the proceeds of any settlement or verdict. So we currently allow this procedure for hospitals, nursing homes. I think I mentioned the entities that are entitled to use it. We're basically adding chiropractic practices to the entities who would be entitled to the lien. And that's important because frequently, at least in the motor vehicle accident context, chiropractors are often the ones who provide a service, and the patient at that time does not have money to pay the bill, and this helps ensure that when the patient gets a judgment or gets a settlement, that at that point the chiropractor can get paid. So the other provision, there was a change made on the floor of the Senate which basically says if the chiropractor is treating someone who was a patient that was insured in a plan that they participate in, they have to make a claim on the insurance first. And if they get paid according to the terms of the insurance plan, they can file the lien as a protective measure, but at the end of the day, they cannot enforce that lien if they've been paid by the insurance company. So we believe this is a much needed protection for chiropractors. It puts them in the same classification as doctors and hospitals under the statute, and will help make sure that they get paid for the services they provide to Georgians. And it also has that consumer protection that requires that both the chiropractors and hospitals and the other healthcare professionals entitled to the protections of the bill do have to make that claim on insurance first and can't enforce the lien unless they the claim has been denied in some fashion. So that's the gist of the bill, Mr. Speaker. I'll stand for any questions.
You have a couple if the gentleman yields.
I yield.
The minority leader of this House, Leader Beverly, has a question, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to draw your attention lines 84 through 88. Isn't it true that through lines 84, 88,
yes,
simply require that providers file with insurers to get a claim rejected before enforcing any lien?
That's exactly correct.
And one further question, is it further true that providers have negotiated with the insurers for rates already?
Indeed, they have. As we like to say in this building, Mr. Leader, the gentleman knows of what he speaks.
Thank you very much. Good bill.
Thank you for the question.
Gentleman has another question. Representative Fry, to your left, has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I yield.
So is this still going to allow when you say a lien, is this going to go on the individual's credit if the insurer denies the claim? Or is it just a lien to file against the claim for the insurance payment?
Well, it's considered legally to be a lien against the cause of action, so it doesn't necessarily apply to the insurance payment, but if the insurance company pays in settlement of the claim, then it would attach to that. So it doesn't attach to property, it doesn't attach to any land that the patient owes, and it doesn't follow the patient. It's just against any money that's paid on the settlement. I can't speak as to whether it shows up on credit. I do know the liens are filed in the clerk's office, and I suppose those could be reported by credit agencies. But again, the goal here is to make sure that the chiropractor in this case gets paid from those settlement proceeds.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
Thank you for the question.
Gentleman, yield for another question.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'll yield.
Chairman Knight, to your right, is recognized for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I yield, yes, sir.
To my friend friendly question, isn't this just a bill that's sort of cracking open the code, allowing for adjustments so that our chiropractors can be treated
I don't know.
fairly and equally as the other providers are?
That's exactly correct.
Thank you, sir.
And artfully asked, I might add.
You have no further questions.
I'm sorry. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
No further questions.
No further questions. I'll yield the well and ask everyone's favorable consideration of Senate Bill 168. Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? If so, have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 170, the nays 4. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Well, here's our posture. We have a couple of announcements, and we're going to recess and have some lunch. And then we're going to come back and get to some work, some bills we need to get to. I'm going to have another announcement in a minute and give you some times, but right now I'm going to recognize Representative Anulowicz for an announcement.
Thank you. It's Monday. That means it's Cobb Delegation Day. CLOB 514 for all Cobb delegation members. Lunch will be provided.
Representative Tran is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The CAB delegation is meeting upon adjournment. We're meeting in room 510 CLOB upon adjournment, and lunch will be provided. Thank you.
Representative McLean is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If all of Gwinnett 21-member delegation can meet in the ante room real quick to take a delegation photo, I'd appreciate it very much. Right now, in the ante room, if we can. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That completes our announcements. The Rules Chairman, Chairman Smith, is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rules will meet at 1:45. 1:45. See you then.
This House will stand in recess until 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. House will stand in recess until 2 p.m.